The chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure built by civilizations long forgotten. Inside, representatives from 43 different species gathered in a circle. Their forms varied wildly. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur or crystalline shells. But today, they all shared the same expression: fear. The holographic display at the center showed star systems burning. Red markers indicated conquered worlds. 17 systems had fallen in just 3 cycles. The Vrenix Empire was spreading like poison through the outer rim, and nothing seemed capable of stopping them. Ambassador Threll stood up. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights. He was from the Aquarian Coalition, a peaceful trade federation that had lost 2 colonies already. His voice carried desperation as he spoke. "We need soldiers. The Vrenix have numbers we cannot match. Our defensive fleets are spread too thin. We must consider conscription from underdeveloped worlds." Murmurs filled the chamber. Conscription was a dark word, rarely spoken in civilized company. It meant taking beings from primitive worlds and forcing them into war. The practice had been banned for thousands of years after countless atrocities. "Which worlds?" asked Council Member Drass, a reptilian being with cold eyes. "The outer territories have been evacuated. The inner worlds are already defending themselves." Threll pulled up a star chart. His manipulator limb pointed to a small yellow star in a quiet sector. "There. Sol 3. The locals call it Earth. Population: 8 billion. They have basic industrial capacity and primitive nuclear weapons. They fight among themselves constantly, so they understand war. We could recruit millions." The chamber went silent. It was not the thoughtful silence of consideration. It was the heavy silence of dread. Elder Vorin rose slowly from his seat. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His body was covered in gray ceremonial robes that marked him as one of the keepers, those who maintained the ancient laws. When he spoke, his voice carried weight that made even the boldest warriors pause. "No." The single word echoed through the chamber. Vorin's eyes, clouded with age but still sharp, fixed on Threll. "You will not go to Earth. You will not contact the humans. You will not even send probes near their system. This is not a suggestion. It is a law older than this council." Threll looked confused. Many of the younger council members shifted uncomfortably. Earth was classified as a Level 2 civilization, primitive and isolated. They had barely left their own planet. They knew nothing of the galaxy beyond their solar system. Why would mentioning them cause such a reaction? "Elder Vorin," Threll said carefully, "I mean no disrespect to the ancient laws, but we are facing extinction. The Vrenix will not stop. We need every advantage. Earth is just one small world." Surely you know nothing," Vorin interrupted. His voice was sharp now, cutting through the air like a blade. "You young ones, with your short memories and shorter wisdom, you think you understand the galaxy because you have mapped its stars. You know nothing of what lies sleeping on that world." Council Member Drass leaned forward. "Elder, please explain. Many of us are not familiar with Earth's significance. The records show it is under quarantine protocol, but the reasons are classified. If you have information that could help us make this decision." "I cannot share what is sealed," Vorin said. "The Forbidden Archives contain knowledge that is kept locked for good reason. But I will tell you this much. Earth is not under quarantine to protect the humans from us. It is to protect us from them." Nervous laughter rippled through some of the younger members. The idea seemed absurd. Humans had barely developed spaceflight. Their weapons were chemical and nuclear, primitive toys compared to plasma cannons and antimatter warheads. They fought with metal vehicles and explosive projectiles. How could they possibly threaten civilizations that had mastered faster than light travel? "This is superstition," declared Ambassador Threll. "Ancient fears from a time before science. Elder Vorin, I respect your position, but we cannot let ghost stories dictate policy while our worlds burn. I propose we send a research team to Earth, just to observe, no contact. We can assess their potential as allies." The debate erupted. Some supported Threll's proposal, others sided with Voron's warnings. The arguments went back and forth for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The result was close, but the decision was made. A small research team would be sent to Earth's solar system. They would observe only, staying hidden while they gathered data about human capabilities. No contact would be made. It was meant to be a simple reconnaissance mission. Voron voted against it. When the final count was announced, he stood and walked toward the exit. Before leaving, he turned back to address the council one last time. "I am going to the Forbidden Archives," he said. "I will invoke my right as an Elder Keeper to access the sealed records. When I return, I will show you what you are about to unleash. But I fear it will already be too late." The door sealed behind him with a heavy sound. The council members looked at each other uneasily, but the decision was made. The reconnaissance ship would launch within 2 cycles. On Earth, completely unaware of the discussion happening light years away, Commander Jiwon was running a training exercise. His unit was practicing mountain warfare in the Korean highlands. The soldiers moved through the terrain with practiced efficiency, their weapons ready, their eyes alert. Captain Minho approached him, holding a tablet. "Sir, satellite communications have been experiencing interference for the past 3 hours. Command thinks it might be solar activity." Jiwon looked up at the clear sky. Something felt wrong, though he could not explain why. It was just an instinct, the kind soldiers develop after years of service. "Double the watch rotation," he said. "And run diagnostics on all equipment. I want to know if anything else starts acting strange." "Yes, sir," Minho replied, though his expression showed he thought the commander was being overly cautious. In a laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Yoonji was working late again. She was a xenobiologist, a specialist in theoretical alien life. Her colleagues often joked that she had the most useless job on Earth, studying life forms that probably did not exist. She did not mind the jokes. Unji believed that somewhere in the vast universe, life had to exist beyond Earth. The odds were simply too great for humanity to be alone. Sometimes, late at night in her lab, she imagined what first contact might be like. Would aliens be friendly, hostile, completely incomprehensible? She had no way of knowing that first contact was already approaching. A ship was traveling through the void toward Earth, carrying beings who would change everything. And behind that ship, in the shadows, other ships were following. Ships with weapons. Ships with cruel intentions. The galaxy was about to collide with Earth, and Earth was not ready. But the galaxy was not ready for Earth either. In the deep archives beneath the council chambers, Voron placed his hand on the ancient reader. Security systems that had not been activated in millennia came to life. Locks clicked open. Dust fell from seals that had remained closed for longer than some civilizations had existed. The data began to flow, and Voron's face grew pale as he read. He had suspected the truth, had heard the whispers from other elders, but seeing the actual records, the images, the warnings from the old ones themselves, it was worse than he had imagined. The humans were coming. Not because they wanted to, but because the galaxy had made the fatal mistake of reminding them that they were not alone. And once reminded, humans never stopped moving forward. Intelligence Officer Kliss did not believe in superstitions. He believed in data, evidence, and observable facts. When the Council assigned him to lead the reconnaissance mission to Earth, he accepted with enthusiasm. Finally, he could prove that the Elders' warnings were nothing more than ancient paranoia. His ship entered Earth's solar system quietly, staying beyond the range of human detection. The vessel was designed for stealth, its hull absorbing electromagnetic radiation like a black hole absorbs light. For 3 days, Kliss and his team observed the blue planet from a safe distance. What they saw fascinated them. Earth was crowded beyond anything Kliss had encountered. 8 billion individuals living on a single world, divided into hundreds of nations, speaking thousands of languages. The planet should have been a paradise of cooperation with such density. But instead, humans seem to thrive on competition. "They fight constantly," reported his science officer, reviewing intercepted communications. "Currently, There are 17 active military conflicts happening on their planet. Dozens more disputes that could turn violent at any moment. They have enough nuclear weapons to destroy their own civilization 10 times over. Kliss studied the data with growing interest. But they do not use those weapons. Why? Fear of mutual destruction. They call it deterrence. Each side knows that if they attack, they will also be destroyed. So they understand strategic thinking, Kliss noted. What about their military capability? The science officer pulled up more files. Primitive by our standards, but surprisingly sophisticated for their technology level. They have developed thousands of different weapon designs. Their history is essentially one long chain of warfare, interrupted by brief periods of peace. They even categorize their history by which wars were happening. Kliss watched footage of human military exercises, soldiers moving in coordinated formations, aircraft screaming through the sky, ships bristling with missiles. The technology was crude, but the tactics were sound. Their industry? He asked. Impressive. They can manufacture equipment at scales we rarely see in pre-contact civilizations. When they commit to production, they can build thousands of vehicles, millions of weapons, all standardized and reliable. Kliss made his decision. He compiled everything into a detailed report and sent it to the council. His recommendation was clear. Earth represented an untapped resource of soldiers who understood warfare, could manufacture weapons quickly, and were numerous enough to make a difference against the Vreniks. He suggested a limited contact protocol, recruiting volunteers with promises of technology and inclusion in the galactic community. The council received his report with mixed reactions. Some members were relieved. The reconnaissance showed humans were just another warrior species, no more dangerous than dozens of others who had joined the galactic community. Others, including Elder Vorin, remained unconvinced. I must access the forbidden archives, Vorin demanded during the emergency session. Before any decision is made about Earth, the council must see what I have found. The request was unusual. The forbidden archives were opened only in cases of extreme necessity, and even then, only keepers could enter. But Vorin's insistence carried weight. After a brief debate, the council granted permission for a full presentation. Vorin returned to the archives alone. The doors opened with a groan that sounded like the galaxy itself protesting. Inside, holographic displays flickered to life, showing records that had been sealed for millions of years. The old ones had been the first great civilization, spanning tens of thousands of worlds long before the current council existed. Their technology had been so advanced it seemed like magic. They had built megastructures, created artificial planets, and bent the laws of physics itself. Vorin searched through layers of encrypted data, following references that led deeper and deeper into the archive. Most keepers never ventured this far. The information here was considered too dangerous, too disturbing for modern civilizations to process. Then he found it. A section marked Quarantine Protocols, Sol System. The timestamp showed it was ancient, created during the height of the Old One's power. The first file was a simple surveillance report. The Old Ones had discovered Earth during humanity's early development, thousands of years before humans even invented writing. They had observed the primitive humans with scientific curiosity, noting their tool use, social structures, and aggressive territorial behaviors. One researcher had noted, "These beings show remarkable adaptability. They survive in environments from frozen tundra to scorching deserts. They form complex social groups but also wage constant war against each other. Recommend continued observation." The next files showed the Old Ones' fatal mistake. They had made contact with a human tribe, offering gifts of knowledge and technology. They wanted to study how a primitive species would develop with assistance from an advanced civilization. What happened next was documented in terrifying detail. The humans learned quickly. Too quickly. They took the gifts, and within generations had surpassed what the Old Ones expected. They did not just use the technology. They understood it, modified it, improved it. When given the secret of metallurgy, they invented 100 new alloys. When shown mathematics, they developed new theorems the Old Ones had never considered. But that was not the disturbing part. The old ones were used to genius species. What unsettled them was humanity's approach to conflict. One report read, "The humans we contacted have shared knowledge with neighboring tribes." This was expected. What was not expected is that they immediately used this knowledge to wage war more efficiently. They have taken our defensive shield technology and converted it into weapons. They call this innovation. Another report, dated several generations later. The humans have spread beyond their original territory. They assimilate other tribes not through conquest, but through cultural exchange and interbreeding. They are highly adaptive socially. More concerning, they show no signs of settling into peaceful civilization, despite abundance of resources. They actively seek challenges. The old ones had tried to contain the situation. They cut off contact, hoping humans would stabilize. Instead, humanity continued developing on their own, their progress actually accelerating without guidance. The final reports from the old ones were marked with increasing desperation. Vorin read them with mounting horror. We attempted to establish boundaries. The humans ignored them. We attempted to demonstrate our superior power. The humans studied our weapons and developed counters. We attempted to isolate them. The humans built ships and came to us. They do not conquer like the warrior races. They do not destroy like the barbarian hordes. They are worse. They arrive with curiosity, with questions, with an endless hunger to explore and understand. They integrate, they adapt, they spread. Wherever humans go, change follows. Not change through force, but change through persistence. We who built wonders across 10,000 worlds cannot contain them. They are not hostile. They are not aggressive. But they never stop. They never settle. They never accept limits. We tried to guide them, but they outgrew us. We tried to rule them, but they outlasted us. We tried to befriend them, but they wanted more than friendship, they wanted the stars. The last entry in the archive was a final warning, written by the last keeper of the old ones before their civilization faded into history. If you are reading this, you have discovered Earth. You believe you can handle them. You are wrong. Do not make our mistake. Do not wake them. Do not remind them that they are not alone in the universe. Earth must remain isolated, not for their sake, but for yours. They are not evil. They are not invincible. But they are inevitable. Once they know the galaxy exists, they will never stop until they have seen every star, touched every world, and pushed beyond every boundary. Mark my words. The species that wakes humanity will be the species that regrets teaching the universe how to run. Say, Vorin stood in the silent archive, surrounded by the ghosts of the old ones. He understood now why Earth was quarantined. Not because humans were dangerous warriors, but because they were something far more terrifying. They were unstoppable explorers with the capacity for endless adaptation. And the Council had just sent a ship to their system. A ship that would crash. A ship that would reveal humanity's isolation was a lie. Vorin gathered the data and prepared his presentation. He had to make the Council understand. They had to stop any further contact immediately. They had to reinforce the quarantine with every resource available. But even as he prepared, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts flooded in from the outer rim. The Vrenix Empire had just destroyed 2 more colonies. They were accelerating their campaign, growing bolder with each victory. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the reconnaissance ship was entering Earth's atmosphere, ready to make first contact. Time was running out. The diplomatic vessel carrying Ambassador Din approached Earth with careful precision. After Officer Kliss's encouraging report, the Council had approved a small contact mission. The plan was simple. Land in a remote area. Make peaceful contact with local authorities. And begin discussions about mutual cooperation against the Vrenix threat. The plan lasted approximately 17 minutes. Vrenix battlecruiser Bloodwake had been tracking Council movements for weeks. When they detected the diplomatic ship entering Earth's system, Commander Vulcrus saw an opportunity too perfect to ignore. If they destroyed a council diplomatic mission over a primitive world, it would send a clear message. Nowhere was safe from the Empire. The attack came without warning. Plasma torpedoes tore through the diplomatic ship's shields like paper. The vessel, designed for peaceful travel, had minimal defensive weapons. Ambassador Din barely had time to send a distress signal before the ship entered a catastrophic spin toward Earth's surface. The pilot managed to aim for a mountain range in Korea, hoping to avoid populated areas. The ship crashed with tremendous force, carving a burning scar across the mountainside before coming to rest in a remote valley. Of the 12 crew members, only 3 survived the initial impact. Ambassador Din was among them, though barely. His blue skin had turned almost gray from internal injuries. The ship's medic worked frantically to stabilize him, but without proper equipment, it was a losing battle. Send. Signal. Din gasped. Warn. Council. Vrenix. Following. The medic activated the emergency beacon just as sensors detected multiple ships entering orbit. The Vrenix had sent a strike team to finish the job and eliminate any witnesses. 30 kilometers away, Commander Jiwan's unit was still conducting mountain training exercises when the sky lit up. The crash was visible even in daylight. A streak of fire that ended in a massive explosion. Command, this is Jiwan. We have a situation. Possible aircraft crash in Sector 7, requesting permission to investigate. The response came quickly. National Command had detected unusual activity on radar. Satellites showing objects that should not exist. Permission was granted immediately, with orders to assess and report. Jiwan's unit reached the crash site within 2 hours. What they found changed everything they thought they knew about the universe. The ship was unlike anything in human technology. Its hull was made of materials that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered the surface, and inside, through a gaping hole in the side, they could see the beings. "Sir," whispered Captain Minho, his weapon raised but his hands trembling slightly. "What are they?" "I don't know," Jiwan replied honestly. "But they're hurt." "So-Yun, get the medical kit." "Do-Hyun, establish a perimeter. This area is now classified." They found Ambassador Din inside, barely conscious. His eyes focused on Jiwan with effort. The translator device on his uniform was damaged, but still partly functional, creating broken sentences. "Warn, you." Din struggled to speak. "Ships. Coming. Vrenix. Warriors. They. Kill. You. Must hide." Jiwan knelt beside the dying alien. "How many ships? What weapons?" Din managed a weak laugh that turned into a cough. "Hundreds. Technology. Beyond yours. You. Cannot fight. Run. Your people." "We don't run," Jiwan said quietly. "How long until they arrive?" "Minutes. They hunt survivors. Will destroy. Evidence. Sorry. Brought death. To your world." Jiwan stood and turned to his unit. His mind was racing through options, tactics, possibilities. They were 30 soldiers with small arms against alien warships. The logical thing was to evacuate, as the alien suggested. But logic had limits, and some things were more important. "Minho, contact command. Tell them we have a situation requiring immediate military response. Unknown hostile forces inbound. So-Yun, help the survivors into that cave system we passed. Do-Hyun, I want explosive charges set at these positions." He pointed to 3 spots around the valley. "Do-Hyun. Do-Hyun. Do-Hyun, we're about to make some new friends feel very unwelcome." "Sir," Minho said carefully, "we don't know what we're facing. The alien said we can't fight them." "The alien told us to run," Jiwan corrected. "We'll see about that." The Vrenix strike team consisted of 3 landing craft and 40 elite soldiers. They were veterans of 100 campaigns, equipped with plasma rifles, energy shields, and powered armor. They expected to find a crashed ship and primitive locals who would flee in terror. What they found was a prepared ambush. The landing craft touched down in the valley, and soldiers poured out in standard formation. Their commander, a scarred warrior named Thrak, immediately knew something was wrong. The valley was too quiet. There should have been signs of the primitive inhabitants the council reports mentioned they had been in this area. The explosion came from 3 sides simultaneously. The humans had rigged the mountainside with every explosive they had, including military charges meant for demolition training. Tons of rock and debris crashed down on the Vrenix formation. It was not enough to stop them. Energy shields absorbed most of the impact. But it did something more important. It announced that the humans were not running. They were fighting. Jiwan watched from a concealed position as the alien soldiers recovered from the rock slide. Through his rifle scope, he studied their armor, their weapons, their movements. Everything was information. Everything could be used. "So, Yun," he said into his radio, "tell me you see the weak points." Lieutenant So Yun had been studying the aliens through her scope as well. "The neck joint and knee joints, sir. The armor doesn't cover them completely. And those glowing parts on their rifles, I think that's their power source. Good eyes. All units, aim for joints and weapons. 3 round bursts, then move positions. Make them think we have more soldiers than we do." The battle began in earnest. Human rifles cracked from a dozen positions. The Vrenix returned fire with plasma bolts that scorched the mountainside. But the humans were already moving. They used terrain, cover, and mobility things their military training had drilled into them for years. The Vrenix were confused. This world was primitive, barely into spaceflight. These soldiers should have been terrified, should have surrendered or fled. Instead, they fought with coordinated tactics and showed no fear at all. Sergeant Do-hyun held a narrow choke point between 2 boulders. 3 Vrenix soldiers tried to advance through. He killed the first one with shots to the neck joint, exactly as So-yun had identified. The second one's shield absorbed his bullets, but Do-hyun had prepared for that. He triggered a remote explosive he had planted earlier, and the blast knocked the alien off balance. A follow-up burst finished the job. The third Vrenix soldier shot Do-hyun in the shoulder, burning through his vest. Do-hyun did not fall back. Instead, he charged forward, firing one-handed, forcing the alien to retreat. The wound was serious. But Do-hyun knew that showing weakness now would encourage the enemy. Better to seem unstoppable. Lieutenant So-yun executed a flanking maneuver that would have impressed any military academy. She used the chaos of battle to work her way around the Vrenix position. When she was close enough, she threw her improvised explosives, grenades wrapped with extra shrapnel, into the cluster of aliens. The explosion caught 4 of them. Their shields failed under the fragmentation assault. Human bullets might not penetrate their armor easily, but sharp metal moving at high velocity could find those joints So-yun had identified. Commander Thrak realized with growing alarm that his elite unit was taking casualties. These primitives were actually hurting them. Impossible, unthinkable, but undeniable. He ordered his remaining soldiers to fall back to the landing craft. They would bomb this valley from the air, erase all evidence. But as they retreated, Jiwan had already anticipated this. Captain Minho had climbed to a high position overlooking the landing zone. He carried something the Vrenix could not have expected, an anti-tank missile launcher, meant for destroying armored vehicles. He aimed carefully at the nearest landing craft and fired. The missile struck the craft's engine section. The resulting explosion was spectacular. Alien technology met human explosives, and the combination destroyed the vessel completely. The Vrenix soldiers stopped retreating. They were trapped now, their escape route eliminated. Thrak made a quick calculation. His remaining forces were not enough to guarantee victory. The humans had proven more resourceful than expected. He activated his emergency beacon, calling for extraction from the battlecruiser in orbit. But the battlecruiser had problems of its own. Earth's military response was mobilizing. Fighter jets screamed through the sky. Missile batteries locked onto the alien ship. Nuclear submarines surfaced with launch systems armed. The entire planet had seen the aliens arrive. And humanity's response was not fear. It was war. The Vrenix ship in orbit launched escape pods for the ground troops and quickly jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing Earth's system. Commander Vulkrus would report this disaster to the Empire. The primitive world had fought back. His elite strike team had been mauled by soldiers using chemical weapons and explosive projectiles. In the valley, the surviving Vrenix soldiers boarded their remaining landing craft under covering fire and managed to escape. They left behind 14 dead, several damaged weapons, and a lot of very useful alien technology. Ji-won sat beside Ambassador Din, who had witnessed the entire battle from the cave where So-yoon had moved him. The alien was dying, his breathing shallow. "You did not run," Din whispered. "No," Ji-won agreed. "They will come back. In force. Your world will burn." "Maybe," Ji-won said. "But they'll learn something. Burning Earth won't be easy." Din managed a weak smile. "The Council feared you. I did not understand. Now, I do." His eyes closed for the last time. Within 6 hours, every major government on Earth knew the truth. Aliens existed. They were hostile, and humanity had just won its first space battle. Dr. Yoonji arrived at the crash site the next day, leading a team of scientists. She stood before the alien ship with tears in her eyes. Her entire life's work validated in one moment. "We're not alone," she whispered. Captain Minho stood beside her. "No, we're not. And apparently, they're not friendly. Can you learn anything from this ship? Their technology?" Yoonji walked closer, her mind already racing with possibilities. "I can try. This is beyond anything we have, but..." She touched the strange metal. "Humans are good at figuring things out." 2. In orbit above Earth, satellites from every nation tracked the stars with new intensity. Somewhere out there, the aliens who attacked were planning their next move. And on Earth, 8 billion humans prepared to show the galaxy what happened when you attacked their world. 3 weeks after the Valley battle, the Vrenix Emperor Cross sat on his throne of conquered worlds and made his decision. The insult could not stand. A primitive world had embarrassed his elite strike team, killed his soldiers, and damaged his ships. If he allowed this to pass without response, every subject race in the Empire would see weakness. "Assemble the first fleet," he commanded. 40 warships. I want Earth reduced to ash. Make an example that will echo across the galaxy for 1,000 years. His generals bowed and moved to execute the order. The first fleet was the pride of the Vrenix Empire, a force that had shattered planetary defenses across 17 systems. Against a primitive world with no space navy, it was overwhelming force. The Empire did not believe in fair fights. The fleet arrived at Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and fire. 40 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their weapons could crack continents. Their shields could absorb nuclear strikes. They broadcast surrender demands on every frequency humans used for communication. The message was simple: submit or die. You have 6 hours to respond. On Earth, every government, military, and civilian watched the alien fleet appear in their sky. The ships were visible even without telescopes. Dark shapes that eclipsed stars. The message played in every language, translated by alien computers that had studied human broadcasts. General Ji-won stood in the command center with representatives from nations around the world. His promotion had been rapid. The soldier who led the first successful battle against aliens was valuable. Now he coordinated Earth's defense, though everyone knew it was hopeless. "We have 1,100 aircraft capable of reaching orbit," reported an American general. "Approximately 400 missiles that can function in space. Maybe 100 satellites we can weaponize. Against 40 warships," added a Chinese admiral. "Each one larger than our biggest carrier. And 40-20. We also have 7,000 nuclear weapons," noted a Russian commander. "If we're dying, we can take some of them with us." Ji-won studied the display showing the Vrenix fleet. His mind worked through scenarios, tactics, possibilities. Everything pointed to defeat. Earth's weapons were toys compared to alien technology. The smart move was surrender, hoping for mercy. But Jiwan had read history. He knew what happened when empires demanded submission. Mercy was rarely part of the arrangement. "We fight," he said simply. "General," the American protested, "this is suicide. We should at least try negotiating." "They destroyed our mountain facility from orbit yesterday," Jiwan interrupted. "Fired without warning on a civilian research station. They killed 300 scientists, including Dr. Yunji. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to make us submit or erase us. So we fight." The 6-hour deadline passed. Earth's response was not words but actions. Every weapon humanity possessed launched toward the Vrenix fleet. The aliens were not impressed initially. Human missiles were slow by their standards. Human aircraft were primitive. When the first wave of attacks reached the fleet, Vrenix shields absorbed the impacts easily. Plasma point defense cannons destroyed incoming missiles. It seemed to confirm what the Empire already knew. This would be an easy extermination. Then the humans adapted. Captain Minho led a squadron of modified spacecraft civilian rockets hastily armed with explosives and given suicide pilots. They did not fly direct paths. Instead, they scattered, using Earth's satellites as cover, approaching from multiple angles. When the Vrenix adjusted their defenses to track the new threats, that was when the real attack came. Nuclear missiles that had been waiting, engines cold to avoid detection, suddenly activated. They came from different directions. Using the chaos of Minho's assault as cover, 3 Vrenix ships took direct hits before they could adjust shields. The nuclear explosions in space were beautiful and terrible. They did not destroy the alien warships, the shields were too strong, but they overloaded them temporarily. And in those brief moments when shields flickered, human weapons found openings. Lieutenant Soyun commanded a laser satellite platform, one of 20 that had been kept off sensors until the moment of attack. When she saw the shield fluctuations, she fired concentrated beams at exposed hull sections. The damage was minor, but it proved something important. The aliens could be hurt. The Vrenix fleet adjusted. They activated more shields, deployed more point defenses, and began systematically destroying human satellites. Within 2 hours, Earth's orbital infrastructure was in ruins. The aliens prepared for planetary bombardment. That was when the ground-based railguns fired. They were experimental weapons, electromagnetic launchers designed to send payloads into space cheaply. Human engineers had worked without sleep for 3 weeks, converting them into weapons. They fired solid metal slugs at tremendous velocity, using sheer kinetic force rather than explosives. The railgun projectiles moved faster than the Vrenix expected. Their point defenses, calibrated for missiles and aircraft, missed several of the metal rods. One struck a warship directly, punching through armor that was designed to resist energy weapons. The ship did not explode, but it lost power and began drifting. The Vrenix commander could not understand what was happening. His fleet was still winning, human losses were catastrophic, but the primitives kept finding new ways to fight. Where was the surrender? Where was the pleading for mercy? Instead, humans were laughing in their communications. Laughing as they died, as they charged toward certain death, as they rammed damaged spacecraft into alien vessels. The Vrenix intercepted radio chatter from human pilots. "I'm hit. Engine's gone. Gonna try to hit that big one. Do it. We'll cover you. Tell my family I died making these bastards work for it." And then laughter. Actual laughter, as the damaged craft accelerated toward a collision. This was not how conquered species behaved. They begged. They surrendered. They tried to negotiate. They did not joke about dying. On Earth's surface, Sergeant Do-hyun commanded a missile battery that had already fired its entire payload. His shoulder still ached from the wound he had taken in the valley battle. When enemy ships began descending to bombing altitude, he knew there was nothing left to shoot at them. "Load everything we have left," he ordered his crew. Flares, smoke grenades, emergency rockets. "I don't care if it's not designed to reach orbit. Fire it anyway. Make them think we still have weapons." His crew looked at him with understanding. It would not hurt the aliens, but it would make them cautious, make them waste ammunition on false threats. Buy Earth a few more seconds. They loaded and fired. Dozens of military units across the planet did the same. The sky filled with launches, most of which would never reach the enemy. But it looked impressive. It looked like Earth still had fight left. The Vrenix ships began bombing major cities. Beijing, London, New York. Moscow plasma fire rained down. Millions died in the first strikes. But even as cities burned, the survivors fought. Ground-based lasers fired at descending ships. Improvised explosives detonated near landing craft. Citizens with hunting rifles shot at alien soldiers. In a bunker beneath Seoul, General Ji-won watched his world burn. They had lasted 3 weeks against impossible odds. They had destroyed 6 Vrenix warships and damaged another 8. But it was not enough. Earth was losing. Then Captain Minho entered the bunker, his face covered in soot but his eyes bright with impossible hope. "General, you need to see this. The aliens are retreating." "What?" "The Vrenix fleet. They're pulling back to high orbit. We're getting transmissions from their ships, arguments, debates. I think they're scared." Ji-won went to the communication center. The intercepted alien transmissions were being translated by captured equipment. What he heard shocked him. "Losses are unsustainable. We've lost 6 vessels. They will not surrender. The planet is burning, and they still fight. Nuclear strike killed the Supreme Commander. The humans destroyed the flagship. Recommend withdrawal and orbital siege. Starve them out." Emperor Cross listened to these reports with growing rage, and something he rarely felt: uncertainty. The First Fleet was retreating. His finest warships were damaged. And the primitive world below was still fighting. 40 ships. He had sent 40 ships to crush one small planet. And they were not enough. The Emperor made his decision. He would assemble a larger fleet. The Second and Third Fleets combined, plus auxiliary forces. 300 warships. He would show the galaxy that no one defied the Vrenix Empire. But as he gave the orders, he noticed his generals exchanging glances. They had heard the reports too. They had heard humans laughing as they died. They had heard the planet-wide coordination of species that supposedly hated each other. They had heard something that worried even hardened warriors: unity in the face of impossible odds. On the Galactic Council station, Elder Vorin finished his presentation. The council members sat in stunned silence as the final images from the Old One's archives faded. Then he played recent footage from Earth: human cities burning, human soldiers charging alien positions with weapons made from alien technology captured 3 weeks ago, human scientists broadcasting blueprints for weapons on public networks so everyone could build them, human children helping adults load ammunition. "This is what we unleashed," Vorin said quietly. "The Vrenix attacked them. Now look." He showed orbital scans of Earth's surface. Factories running at maximum capacity. Launch facilities being built at impossible speed. Underground bunkers connecting into massive networks. Humanity was not surrendering, they were adapting. Dr. Yunji was killed in the orbital strikes, Vorin continued. She was their lead scientist on alien technology. Within 12 hours, 3 other scientists had taken her place and improved upon her work. When the Vrenix destroyed their satellite network, humans had backup systems operational in days. They are learning from every attack, every casualty, every interaction. And they are not stopping. Ambassador Threll, who had first suggested recruiting humans, stood up. His voice was shaken. "What do we do?" Vorin looked at the council with tired eyes. "The Vrenix are assembling a fleet of 300 ships. They intend to end Earth permanently. If they succeed, we lose a potential ally but also avoid a future problem. If they fail." He paused. "If they fail, then humanity will have access to Vrenix technology, Vrenix star charts, and knowledge that the galaxy exists. They will come looking for answers, for revenge, for everything we tried to keep from them. And if we intervene?" asked Council Member Drass. "Then we must commit fully, save Earth, and accept what follows. The humans will know we exist. They will demand inclusion, technology, answers. We cannot put them back in quarantine once we make contact. The council debated through the night. Finally, a decision emerged. They would send a delegation to the Vrenix Empire. Not to ask. To demand. Earth must be left alone. The delegation, led by Vorin, departed immediately. The throne room of Emperor Cross was built from the ruins of conquered worlds. Each pillar represented a defeated civilization. Each decoration was a trophy taken from those who had dared resist the Vrenix Empire. It was designed to intimidate, to remind visitors that resistance was futile. Elder Vorin walked through this monument to destruction without showing fear. Behind him, the council delegation moved with careful dignity. They had come to make a demand of the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. It was possibly the most dangerous mission any of them had undertaken. Emperor Cross sat on his throne, his scarred face showing contempt. The Galactic Council sends messengers. How unexpected. Have you come to surrender more worlds to my empire? Vorin stepped forward. We have come to discuss Earth. The Emperor's expression darkened. That primitive world that embarrassed my first fleet? What is Earth to the Council? It is a quarantined world under ancient protection, Vorin explained. We request that you cease all military action against it immediately. Cross laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Request? The Council requests? You have no authority over my empire. We take what we want. We destroy what resists. Earth chose to resist, so Earth will burn. You do not understand what you are provoking, Vorin said quietly. I understand perfectly. A primitive world fought back when it should have surrendered. This insult requires response. I have assembled 300 warships. The Second Fleet will depart in 2 cycles. Every city will burn. Every human will die. The Empire will use their planet as a training ground, a place where young warriors learn to destroy things thoroughly. Vorin had expected this response. He gestured to his aide, who activated a holographic display. The images from the Forbidden Archives appeared in the throne room, the records of the Old Ones, their warnings, their desperate final messages. Watch, Vorin commanded. The Emperor watched with growing irritation that slowly transformed into confusion, then concern. The records showed human expansion, their adaptation, their refusal to accept limits. The Old One's civilization falling not through conquest but through obsolescence, absorbed and surpassed by the very species they had tried to guide. Ancient history, Cross dismissed, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Myths and propaganda from a dead civilization. My empire is stronger than the Old Ones ever were. Is it? Vorin asked. Your first fleet of 40 warships retreated from Earth. They destroyed 6 of your vessels. Your supreme commander was killed by a primitive nuclear device, and that was just 3 weeks after first contact. Imagine what they will be capable of in 3 months, in 3 years. Which is why they must be destroyed now, Cross insisted, before they become a threat. Vorin played another recording. This one was recent, captured just hours before by Council surveillance. It showed Earth's surface, transformed in mere weeks. New facilities rising from the ground. Captured Vrenix technology being studied, replicated, improved. Humanity's entire civilization had shifted into war production. They have rebuilt everything you destroyed, Vorin said. They have analyzed your weapons. Look at these manufacturing facilities. They are producing copies of Vrenix plasma rifles. Crude copies, but functional. They did this in 19 days. The Emperor leaned forward, studying the images more carefully. His generals exchanged worried glances. Vorin continued relentlessly. Your attack unified them. They were divided into hundreds of nations, constantly fighting each other. You gave them a common enemy. You showed them they are not alone in the universe. You validated their worst fears about hostile aliens. And most importantly, you gave them samples of your technology. He pulled up another image. Captain Minho standing beside a captured Vrenix landing craft. Human engineers crawling over it like insects. Taking measurements. Removing components. Learning. This is Captain Minho. He infiltrated your ship during the first fleet engagement. He planted a tracking device before escaping. That device transmitted your jump coordinates back to Earth. They know where your supply depots are. They know the locations of your colony worlds. They are building their first faster-than-light ship right now, using reverse-engineered technology from your fleet. Impossible, breathed one of the Vrenix generals. FTL technology took us centuries to develop. Breathe. It took them 3 weeks, Vorin corrected. Because you gave them working examples to study. Because humans do not discover technology linearly, they steal it, adapt it, and improve it. The old ones learned this lesson. Will you? Emperor Cross stood from his throne, his massive frame towering over the delegation. You come to my throne room and threaten me? You show me images meant to frighten me? The Vrenix Empire fears nothing. My second fleet will launch as planned. Earth will burn. And if the Council attempts to interfere, you will burn next. Vorin had known this would be the response. He had one more card to play. One final piece of evidence that might penetrate the Emperor's arrogance. Show him the wargame results, he told his aide. The hologram changed to display complex tactical simulations. The Council's best military strategists had run scenarios based on available data about human behavior and capabilities. Scenario 1, Vorin narrated. Your second fleet attacks Earth. You succeed in destroying the planet. Estimated timeline: 4 weeks. Estimated fleet losses: 40%. But here is what happens next. The simulation showed human ships crewed. Ugly things built from salvage technology launching from hidden facilities on Earth's moon. On Mars, from asteroid bases that humanity had apparently established during the 3 weeks while the Vrenix assembled their fleet. They built backup colonies, Vorin explained. On every celestial body in their system. You would need to glass every single one, and during that time, these human survivors would scatter, taking everything they learned about your empire with them. They would become raiders, terrorists, an eternal thorn in your side. The old ones called it the persistence. Humans do not surrender. They do not forget. They endure. Scenario 2, Vorin continued. Your fleet launches, but we intervene. The Council commits our forces to defend Earth. War between our civilizations. No winner, only destruction. And Scenario 3, the Emperor demanded, you walk away. You leave Earth alone. You reinstate the quarantine that should never have been broken. We offer you compensation territory in sectors you do not currently control. Technology sharing, preferential trade agreements. We will give you things you want in exchange for your agreement to leave Earth untouched. The throne room fell silent. Cross stared at the simulations, at the images of human determination, at the warning from the old ones. He was a warrior, and warriors did not retreat from battle. But he was also an emperor, and emperors made decisions for their empires, not their egos. You ask me to show weakness before a primitive world, he said finally. I ask you to show wisdom before a force you do not understand, Vorin corrected. You have lost face, yes. But the cost of regaining that face may be the destruction of your empire. Not immediately. Not obviously. But inevitably. Because once humans have faster-than-light travel, once they know where you are, they will come. Maybe as conquerors, maybe as traders, maybe as explorers. But they will come, and you will not be able to stop them. A Vrenix general stepped forward. My emperor. Perhaps we should consider. Silence. Cross commanded. He walked down from his throne until he stood directly before Vorin. The old council member barely reached the emperor's chest. But he did not flinch. What compensation? Cross asked finally. The negotiation took 6 hours. The council offered star systems, resources, technology, and mutual defense agreements. They offered everything except the one thing the Empire wanted. Earth. In the end, Emperor Cross agreed. The Second Fleet would stand down. The Empire would recognize Earth as a protected world under Council authority. The official statement would claim the Empire had shown mercy to a primitive civilization, allowing them to exist under Council supervision. It was a lie that let the Emperor save face. Everyone in the room knew the truth. As the Council delegation prepared to leave, Cross called out to Vorin. "You have bought them time, Old One. But time is all you have bought. Eventually, they will come, and when they do, the galaxy will remember that the Council protected them, armed them, enabled them. Perhaps," Vorin acknowledged, "or perhaps we will remember that we learned from the Old One's mistake. We do not seek to control humans, we seek to coexist with them. There is a difference." "We shall see," Cross said. "We shall see." On Earth, General Jiwan received the transmission with mixed feelings. The Galactic Council had intervened. The Vreniks were withdrawing. Earth was safe for now, but safety came with conditions. The Council demanded Earth accept supervised contact. They would share some technology, provide guidance, and help humanity join the galactic community properly. It was protection, but also control. Jiwan called a meeting of Earth's unified military command. Representatives from every nation gathered, connected by video feeds that still worked despite the damage from the war. "They want to guide our development," Jiwan explained. "Give us technology slowly. Control our expansion. Keep us contained." "Do we have a choice?" asked the American general. "Yes," Jiwan said. "We can refuse. Tell them we will develop on our own terms. But that means we will be alone again, possibly facing the Vreniks without protection." Captain Minho spoke up from his video feed. He was on the moon, overseeing the construction of humanity's first FTL ship. "We already have their technology. Not all of it, but enough. We can build on what we captured. It will take longer, but we can do it." Lieutenant Soyun added her voice. "The Council is afraid of us. That much is clear from their negotiations. If they fear us, that means we have leverage." General Jiwan looked at the faces of Earth's military leadership. Just 6 weeks ago, they had been divided by national interests, old grudges, competing ideologies. The Vreniks' attack had changed everything. "We accept the Council's offer," he decided. "But on our terms. We will join their community as equals, not as children, to be supervised. We will take their technology and improve it. We will learn everything they can teach us. And if they try to limit us, we will remind them that humans do not accept limits." The vote was unanimous. 3 months later, the first human delegation arrived at the Galactic Council station. They came in a ship that was half human design, half reverse-engineered alien technology, crude but functional. Captain Minho commanded the vessel. Elder Vorin greeted them with cautious respect. "Welcome to the galactic community." "Thank you," Minho replied. "We appreciate the Council's intervention. We look forward to peaceful cooperation. There are protocols for integration," Vorin began. "Procedures that have been established over millions of years, which we will study," Minho interrupted politely, "and adapt as necessary. You should know that Earth's first colony ships are already preparing for launch. We have identified 17 habitable worlds within range. We will establish settlements within the year." "Aft?" Vorin's expression showed alarm. "That is very fast. Perhaps you should allow us to guide." "We appreciate the offer," Minho said, "but humans prefer to learn by doing. We will make mistakes. We will cause problems. But we will also achieve things you cannot imagine. The Old Ones learned that. You will too." Vorin watched the human delegation walk into the council chambers, moving with confidence that species typically took centuries to develop. He thought of the warnings from the archives, the desperate messages from the Old Ones, the simulations of human expansion. Everything he had feared was coming true. And yet, as he watched Minho negotiate with council members, watched humans applying their particular brand of persistent curiosity to galactic politics, Vorin felt something unexpected. Hope. Perhaps the Old Ones had failed because they tried to control humanity. Perhaps the key was not containment but collaboration. Perhaps humans would not destroy the galactic order but transform it into something new. Or perhaps they would destroy everything and spread chaos across the stars. Time would tell. Behind humanity's delegation ship, visible through the station windows, other vessels approached. Earth was sending representatives, scientists, traders, soldiers, families. They came with questions, with wonder, with endless energy. They came to stay. The galaxy had been warned. The warning had been ignored. And now, the humans were here. There would be no putting them back into quarantine. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same.